When was the last time you ate a hot dog and actually stopped to think about what you were eating? Not the ingredients, not the calories, but the name itself. Hot dog. Like, why? Why is it called that? There's no dog in there. It is not shaped like a dog. It does not bark. So where did that name come from? Here is the wild part. Nobody has a clean, simple, definitive answer. There is no inventor, no official naming moment, no document somewhere with a signature that says this is it, this is why. What there is a story. And that story has German immigrants, a dark urban legend, a cartoon that may or may not have ever existed, a World's Fair, and baseball. Lots and lots of baseball. So let us get into it. Let us go back to 19th century Germany. Germany had an absolutely serious relationship with sausage, and I mean serious. Different regions, different cities, different recipes, different casings, different smoking techniques. Sausage was not just food, it was identity, it was culture, it was something people were genuinely proud of. And two cities in particular were especially proud, Frankfurt and Vienna. Frankfurt claims their sausage, which they called the Frankfurter, goes all the way back to 1487. Vienna, which is called Wien in German, and yes, that is where the word Wiener comes from, claims they made a very similar sausage first, and that Frankfurt basically copied them. This argument has been going on for over 100 years. Both cities have doubled down, neither one has backed off. Historians have weighed in, it has never been resolved. I find that deeply funny, that somewhere out there are people who feel strongly about this. But that is how much sausage mattered in 19th century Europe. It was not a small thing. Now, through the 1800s, millions of German immigrants were making their way to the United States, and they did not come empty-handed. They brought their language, their traditions, their music, and absolutely their food, including their sausages. By the mid to late 1800s, German-style sausages were showing up everywhere in American cities. Markets, street fairs, pushcarts on busy corners. Vendors would sell them warm, sometimes tucked into a cloth or a piece of bread, just to make them easier to hold without burning your hands. Cheap, hot, filling, portable, they were incredibly popular. But here's where things start getting interesting. Because even though people loved eating these sausages, they did not entirely trust them. Think about what it was like to buy street food in a crowded American city in the 1880s. There were no food safety regulations. There was no government inspection. You handed someone a coin, they handed you a sausage, and you just kind of hoped for the best. Sausages were especially suspicious because of how they were made. Ground meat packed into a casing. You could not see what was inside, and they were cheap, sometimes suspiciously cheap. So naturally, people started joking. Dark humor, the way people have always used dark humor when they're a little unsettled by something. Jokes started spreading in cities, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, the meat inside those cheap little sausages was not exactly beef or pork. Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was dog. Now, let me be completely clear. There is no real evidence that anyone was actually putting dog meat into sausages. This was an urban legend, the kind of rumor that spreads fast in crowded places among people who did not have a lot of reasons to trust the systems around them. But the joke spread anyway. People started calling sausages dogs, and then hot dogs because they were served hot. And that nickname, born entirely from a dark joke that was not even true, refused to die. So by the late 1800s, the slang is out there. People are using it casually. But then comes the moment that supposedly blasted it into mainstream American culture. And this is where a cartoonist named T.A. Dorgan enters the story. Dorgan was a popular newspaper cartoonist in New York. He was known for capturing everyday life, street culture, sports, the kinds of things regular people were doing and talking about. The legend says that one day in 1901, Dorgan was at a baseball game at the Polo Grounds in New York. Vendors were moving through the crowd selling sausages in buns, and they were shouting something like, "Get your red-hot Dachshund sausages," because that was another thing people were calling them, Dachshund sausages, because Dachshunds are long and low and sausage-shaped, which honestly, once you notice that, you can never unsee it. So Dorgan, being a cartoonist, gets inspired. He draws a cartoon. In the cartoon, actual Dachshund dogs are sitting in hot dog buns with mustard on them, little cartoon dogs, in bread, being sold at a ball game. And when he goes to write the label on the cartoon, he realizes he does not actually know how to spell Dachshund, so he just writes two words instead, hot dogs. The cartoon runs in a New York newspaper. People love it, they share it, they talk about it, and suddenly, hot dog is not just underground slang anymore, it is everywhere. That is the legend. Here's the problem. Nobody has ever found the cartoon. Historians and researchers have gone through newspaper archives looking specifically for this cartoon from 1901. It has never shown up, not once. The cartoon that supposedly changed everything may not exist, or at least no one has been able to locate it. Some researchers think it could have been printed in a paper whose archives were lost or never digitized. Others think the story got embellished over decades of retelling until it became more legend than fact. But here's what is documented. The phrase hot dog shows up in a New Jersey newspaper in 1892. It shows up clearly in a Yale student publication in 1895. So the phrase was already in use years before Dorgan supposedly drew his famous cartoon. Did Dorgan help popularize it? Maybe. Did he invent it? Almost certainly not. The truth is probably messier and less cinematic than the legend, which again is how most history actually works. All right, let us talk about the bun, because that is its own story. Early sausage vendors in America were not always serving sausages in bread. Sometimes they handed you the sausage directly. Sometimes they offered gloves to hold it, which sounds fine until you realize that gloves were not cheap. Customers would walk off wearing them, and vendors kept losing them. So bread was a natural solution, cheap, disposable, easy to hold. Some vendors were already using sliced bread or rolls informally.
Now there is a story, a very popular one, that the proper hot dog bun as we know it was born at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. The 1904 World's Fair was a massive event. Millions of people attended. Vendors came from all over the country trying to sell their food to enormous crowds. And a vendor named Anton Feuchtwanger was there selling sausages. According to the story, he was lending gloves to customers to hold the sausages. The gloves kept disappearing, and his brother-in-law, who happened to be a baker, came up with a solution: a long, soft roll designed specifically to fit the sausage perfectly. Portable, clean, no gloves needed. Now, historians debate how accurate this specific story is. The World's Fair origin story for a lot of American foods has gotten romantically exaggerated over the years. The ice cream cone also supposedly has its origin at the same fair, and that story has its own complications. But what is true is that by the early 1900s, the hot dog in a long roll was becoming the standard. The format was working. People liked it. And the World's Fair, whether or not every detail of the story is precise, genuinely did play a role in spreading food culture across America. Now, we have to talk about baseball, because you cannot tell the hot dog story without baseball. By the early 1900s, hot dogs were showing up at ballparks across the country, and the combination made complete sense. Think about it. You are sitting in a crowd, you have no table, you need to eat with one hand and potentially hold a drink with the other. The food needs to be hot, filling, not messy, and not too expensive. Hot dog in a bun, problem solved. A concessions entrepreneur named Harry Stevens is often credited with popularizing hot dog sales at New York's Polo Grounds. Whether all the details of his story are exactly right or not, the partnership between hot dogs and baseball was real, and it locked in fast. By the middle of the 20th century, a hot dog at a ball game was not just a snack, it was part of the experience, part of the ritual. You go to a game, you get a hot dog, you argue about whether the home team is any good this year. That was just the deal. And today, Americans eat around 7 billion hot dogs between Memorial Day and Labor Day. That is not a rounding error. 7 billion in roughly 3 months. Baseball stadiums account for tens of millions of those on their own. It became so deeply embedded in American culture that people genuinely started treating it as a symbol of American identity, which is a remarkable journey for a German sausage with a nickname born from a dark joke that was not even accurate. So let us bring this all the way home. Why is it called a hot dog? The real answer is that it is a combination of things that layered on top of each other over decades. German immigrants brought a sausage-making tradition to America. That sausage became wildly popular in cities. People were suspicious of cheap street food and started making jokes about what was really in those sausages. Those jokes became slang. The slang spread. A cartoonist may or may not have drawn something that pushed it further. Baseball and fairs and street corners made it part of everyday life, and at some point, the joke just became the name and nobody questioned it anymore. That is honestly how a lot of language works. Some of the most ordinary words we use every single day came from slang, from accidents, from jokes, from moments where someone said something and it stuck and kept spreading until nobody even remembered it was ever unusual. The hot dog did not get its name from a formal decision. It got its name from real people, ordinary people buying food on busy street corners, making dark jokes about things they didn't quite trust, writing cartoons, running food carts, selling snacks at ball games, and slowly, over time, turning all of that messy, complicated, uncoordinated human activity into something that became an icon. And that is kind of beautiful, honestly. If you made it to the end of this video, you now officially know more about hot dog history than almost anyone you will ever meet at a cookout. Drop a comment and tell me this: ketchup on a hot dog, is that acceptable or is it a problem? I'm not here to judge, I just want to know. If you enjoyed this, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We cover the weird, overlooked, genuinely fascinating stories behind things you have seen and used and eaten your whole life, but never really thought about. See you in the next video.